Hello, it's Kylie Bertucci. I'm here with our tutorial bundle of the month, and I am so excited about playing with this amazing suite this month. It's the Hues of Happiness suite, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It is just one of the most pretty, stunning, gorgeous suites I have seen in a very long time. These beautiful flowers, the colors, it's just such a gorgeous suite of products. And we're going to have so much fun today doing a technique that I love to do with designer series paper, and that is the scrappy strips technique. So if you don't have this suite already, we're hoping that this tutorial bundle, this bundle of videos, is going to change your mind and you will add that to your cart. But if you have it already, well, you are going to get lots of fantastic ideas from all of these tutorials. And if you enjoy our tutorials, particularly having the videos, please share this idea or let others know about our tutorial bundle so that they can purchase it too and enjoy all of the creativity and the ideas and everything that they're going to get from this tutorial video. We would really appreciate that. But please don't share with people who haven't purchased. We would really appreciate that too. It's very, very important because your support and purchasing these bundles means so much to us, and it means we can keep creating them. So please don't share if the person hasn't purchased. Thank you so much. So let's jump on in. I want to show you the project that I've got. This is a prototype. You know, with me, it always kind of ends up a little bit different at the end. But this is the scrappy strip technique, and it is absolutely gorgeous with this paper. I think it just goes so well. And I've done a little bit of a twist with the scrappy strip. I've actually stuck it down onto the paper. So in the background is actually some of the Hues of Happiness paper. So let's jump in and show you exactly what you can do here, because it's very, very simple, surprisingly. These types of cards, they look complicated, but in actual fact, they're actually quite simple. And Bruno taught me this technique. The first time I saw him do it, I was like, really? It's that easy? I am shocked. I was shocked to my core. So first thing you're going to do is choose a piece of paper that you want as your backdrop. And you will have the measurements on the tutorial. So just cut that to the size that the tutorial mentions, because it's going to be a different size depending on where you live around the world. So don't look at my trimmer. I've hidden the numbers so that you don't get confused. So I like to cut this to the actual size because this is what we're going to be sticking our strips onto. I like it to the actual size, and then I can just trim the paper. If you have it a little bit larger, you can trim it, but it can get a little bit difficult for the trimmer because you're going through two layers, particularly if this is cardstock, because you can layer this on cardstock. Then it gets really tricky and you can end up having a bit of an issue. So on the paper it shouldn't be too bad, but I think just cutting it, knowing exactly what size you want it to begin with, is definitely the way to go. You can see here that that's the exact size, and then any overlay that we have, we're going to cut away. Then we've got our next two layers, and you don't have to use the colors that I've used, but I've already gone ahead and cut them to size as it says in the tutorial. So go pause now and go and do some chopping if you haven't done that already. And now we'll do some scrapping. Let's do some scrappy strips. So one thing we're going to do here is just grab our bone folder, and we're just going to, I like to use my trimmer to line this up. And all I'm doing is just lining it up along the edge here and along the side here, so that I know that this is going to be the best score for this card. So just come in along the side and then score that card. And that's going to be nice and crisp. All the edges are going to be joined. Everything's wonderful. You can do the old style, like the regular opening, which is that way. Totally up to you, but I like to have opening cards from the top, which is a bit of fun. And that is the only one we need our trimmer for, so that's good. So we've got this, we've got this. You're going to need a little scrap piece of Night of Navy. I'm like, what color are you? Night of Navy, to do some sentiment. And I'm just going to show you with this one here how to do the scrappy strips, because I've already pre-cut mine all ready to go. But if you have some scraps, then this is the perfect way to use those scraps. But if you don't have any scraps ready to go, this is how simple it is to make your scrappy strips. You basically are just lining this up to go thin to a bit wider. So you're just going on the edge, and no measurements, that's just all eyeballing. I don't like them too thick on a card. You can see here the widest I'm sort of going is like less than half, probably 1/4 of an inch, or like 0.5, like half a centimetre, or even a centimetre actually. Yeah, about a centimetre, but then it goes down thinner. So I don't want it too large for this particular project. If you're doing scrapbooking, something like that, then of course you could go a little bit thicker. But you can see here that each time you're sort of twisting it, it's going to create those lengths for you. And you just want to make sure that this paper that you're cutting from is a little bit larger than the piece that you're sticking down. So you can see here, when I put it on here, I've got that little bit of overhang, and that's going to make it a lot easier to then maneuver these where I want it, because I've got that little bit extra sticking out, and it will make sense in a moment. So you just do the scrappy strips a little bit larger than that base size, and then that's going to make everything so much easier. So there you go, that's how easy it is. And you can use either side, of course, for your scrappy strips. So, and then that's not going to be wasted, everything gets used. It's just a really great idea and a great way to use up our designer series paper. Now, one thing that I will recommend, because I like to work with Tombow glue, some people like to use the tape, but I find it really difficult, because if you start putting tape on top of this, you're going to end up with these pieces in the middle here with tape all over it. So I find just having the little strip and putting some glue on that. If you do decide to do the whole thing with tape, you could possibly even use some of our gold foiling in between to stick down on the pieces that are sticky. So that could be another alternative for you. But just grab your, and hopefully I can find it here. Grab your, yes, I found him, yes. Silicone mat, which is really handy for doing messy gluing like this. And it just keeps everything neat and tidy. And so all we're going to do is just come in. Obviously I wouldn't use the same pattern as what is in the background, so just use something that's opposite, and you can go from whatever angle you want. At the top I kind of like to leave a little lip there, and I don't necessarily like to go necessarily in the middle. You can sort of go thinner and thicker depending on how long your pieces are and where you want it to sit. But it's a really, really fun, easy technique. And so in here, you can make this as crooked as you want. You can make it as thin as you want. So you can see here, I've added like quite a bit of space, or you could do thin space, whatever you want. And you can play around with the sizing. It's just a really fun technique. And because you don't require measuring, I love it, because I hate doing measurements. I'm like, measurements are so annoying. And so that is it, my friends. We're just going to go all the way down this project. You can see with the Tombow glue how much easier it makes it. Because even here at the moment you can see I've got a big globby bit there. So just come in with your, you could use a baby wipe or something that you know, tissue that you've just lightly dampened. I've just done a tissue directly on there, but that is going to be a little bit tacky later, so you might want to use an adhesive remover to just do a bit of a cleanup of that. Now the colours that I've chosen are quite light colours because I've got the dark background. I just wanted to do a contrast of these lighter ones. But I think even bringing in some of these ones here is nice because I've got the polished pink background. And you don't necessarily have to keep swapping. So you've seen here I've done thin and thick, thick, thick. You can swap it, or you can even just stay the same. Because if you stay all one, say if you do all thick, you could actually end up with like a starburst card, which is quite pretty. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, I like this one. So if I did all thick on the one side, then it would, yeah, look like a starburst, like a sun. So you can have a lot of fun with this technique. And if you haven't tried it, the scrappy strip technique, please give it a go. It's a lot easier than it looks. And I find it quite calming and relaxing. I really enjoy it. So you can see here, I've done two pretty much the same way. And then we can do the same when we come this side. You can see why the silicone mat comes in handy, because we've got lots of excess glue sitting underneath these pieces here. So it's good to have. Oh yeah, I like that one. It's good to have the protection silicone mat, so it just protects your work, because you don't want to be ripping all of this later. Just come in a little bit more so I've got a thicker piece. But yeah, this suite of products is just so pretty. I love the fonts in this. The fonts are just absolutely gorgeous. What else have we got here? Yeah, I think I'll do some pretty flowers on this side. I sort of like to swap it out a little bit. And just do, like, not have the same pattern close to each other, like next door. But I have tried it where I've used the same paper the whole way through, and that looks really, really beautiful. So you can really, you could even stamp, like stamp an image, and then, do I like that to end with? I think I want that one to end with. There we go. There we have it. So it's going to leave that really, like, that's cool to have that at the end there. So we just lift this up, and this is the cool thing about the silicone, is it's not going to dry and stick to this. But just a word of caution. Ask me how I know. It's because the back is still sticky. Just get some wipes, whether it's baby wipes or I've got some antibacterial wipes here, and just rub that off straight away, just so that you're not dealing with it later. Because this is me dealing with it later. And look, it comes off all right, but it's just, it's not ideal when you pick up your silicone mat and one side's all got lumpy bits of glue all over it. While I'm here, I'll do my desk. Because my desk gets a lot of glue. You can also use the Stampin' Mist. I find that that's really good with some, even just a tissue. Look, if you've already got our Stampin' Mist, the Stampin' Up Mist, it's really good because it's got like a slight conditioner in it, and so it's easy to bring up the tackiness of the glue. So whatever you prefer. Now from here, we've got our pieces all ready to go, and we're going to, now you can do one of two things. And actually, now that I think about it, I think it's actually better rather than using the trimmer, because what does happen is it gets stuck all to the side there, and it's not ideal. It's not fun. Ask me how I know. So the snips are actually your best friend. So just come through as close as you can to the paper, and you can always come back if you need to, and just snip away the excess. And I find that's way easier to pull apart and pull off than on your trimmer. It's really annoying on the trimmer. And then the other side. So I'd love to see what paper you end up using. And just so you know, the paper that I used was the paper that it has like a gradient color to it. So it actually, you can see here on the card, it goes from green to the blues to the purples and goes darker purple, and that's in the background. So it's really fun when you have a color that changes, and that could be, you could possibly even use some of our brushes, the blending brushes, to create your own background. But I love that. I think that looks really cool with the darker background in between, and you see it really pop once you sit it down onto that backing. Isn't that amazing? So we'll just stick that right down now. Oh no, we need to do some other serious work. So I'll let that dry. Don't do as I did. I need to get some dies. I'm going to do some cutting. So we just do this. We've done this before. In fact, what I can possibly do is I will cut it. I will stick it down, but it is easier to cut it from this piece rather than the two of them. But for the sake of not mucking up the back, I will cut it from this. So what I'm going to do, and you may not have noticed this, but I've got this piece here that I've cut out. Oh, actually in this one I did cut through both, so that's all right. Crisis averted, people. But you could just cut it from the paper, whatever's easier for you. So we're going to use some of those, and this one here is a particularly amazing die. It doesn't come in this sweet, but I just think it's one of those staple dies that you need to have in your life, which is the Scallop Contours. And I thought about using the larger one, but I wanted to have that flowers just sit sort of nicely. So feel free to use whatever layer you would prefer here. I went for this one here, and I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Have you named your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine? Someone was telling me that they've named theirs. I'm like, I feel like maybe he's a Freddy. I think my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is Freddy, even though it's my friend's dog's name. I can have a Freddy too, can't I? So I'm just going to line that up. You can see here I'm just sort of lining it up as best as I can to make it even on each side. In Australia, ours is a little bit different for these shapes. So anywhere other than the US and Canada, you'll see the shape doesn't quite look like it matches. But for Canada and the US, it'll fit perfectly for you guys. It will be even all the way around. So I'm just going to run this through once and then come back, because it is quite tight, and we'll just see if that's cut through okay. So you'll see on the bottom if it's got the cut through, and that all looks happy. So we'll see. I might do it just one more time in case. If you feel like this needs a bit extra, then that would be the way to do it. There we go. There we go, Freddie. Thank you for your hard work. No harm in being extra. Give him a bit extra to cut out nice and easy. And then this piece is going to be stuck back in. Isn't that the coolest? It looks like, how on earth do you do that? But I think this one here, you can see that it sort of sits up, and it's more obvious that there's, you know, a piece in the middle. And you possibly could, we might even raise it double. I just did one dimensional on this one, but you could possibly do 2 dimensionals, and that will really raise that up and let it be visible. So yeah, that's the Scalloped Contours, that one. Really great die set. And what we're going to do, so we've got that piece. The other thing that we're going to do before we stick it all down is, because I've got my polished pink there, I love, love, love that pink. I'm normally not a pink girl, but I really enjoy that pink. So we're going to do some stamping. So we'll do the sentiment and that beautiful flower. And I've got a piece of basic white here that I want to stamp on. And I actually thought, rather than using black, I went for the Night of Navy. And we've got our gorgeous flower. And you could decide to do maybe a few flowers if you wanted to. You could, you know, have a few in the background here sitting up, like so do 3 rather than 1. Up to you, but you know, just as an idea, and you can test it out and see which one you prefer. And so I'm just inking that up, and I like to stamp it a couple of times just in case there's one that I prefer more than the other. There we go. So I'm going to use the Polish Pink, dark and light. I did think about using Flirty, but I think that the Polish Pink is a lot nicer. The Flirty Flamingo just sort of clashed with it a little bit, the pink for the base. So I'll just zoom in so that you can really see my colouring idea here. But what I thought I would go for is, and just pick your thin end for this, because we're going to be doing little petal pieces. Sometimes we forget that there's 2 ends to the blends, but the thin end is really good for something like this. So just come in like so. I'm in my colouring mode. Whee! I really enjoy colouring. So all of those sort of petal lips, the curled over pieces. And you could do it the opposite, like I think you could do them lighter and the inside petal darker. Like it probably would make more sense in terms of you know, how the contrast hits. But yeah, you'll see. You can pick. I am going to do a bit of shadowing though behind these petals that are overlapping, just so that it gives it a little bit of a like a shadow type effect behind the petal. And you'll see how amazing the blends are in how it blends that to make it look like a shadow and not a mistake. Because at the moment you're like, what? So anywhere where there's like a petal that's overlapping, and I'll do this center in the darker color too. So that looks pretty good. I think I've got most of the overlapping pieces there, maybe just a little bit here. Good. Now we'll bring in the blending, which I like to blend with the light colors. That's my preference, but you can totally pick what works for you. I think that's the cool thing about crafting, is there's no real rule about things. It's like, just figure out what works for you. And if this isn't how you do it, oh good, you do it how you do it. But I have found that this works for me. So see this little piece here? If we keep sort of pushing that ink, it really blends it in, but then it has that beautiful shadowing there. And you could bring in your silicone mat too, just to protect your workspace. You don't have to be too fussy about the overlapping petals, but where there's shadowing, where we've put the shadow pieces, we really want to get in there and just blend that in nicely so that it looks like it's, you know, natural and part of the flower. So see how that's got a big line? But if we just keep going over it a bit more, just in a circular motion I like to go, that's going to blend that all in. Isn't it exciting? I love, love, love these alcohol blends. They're definitely my favorite coloring tool. And if you don't feel confident using them, just keep practicing, keep playing. You know, get a whole heap of these flowers and just keep coloring and until you feel more confident in how it comes out. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just come up so pretty, so much depth of color and interest. Ah, love. Then we'll just come in with our Freddie, our little friend. I'll just zoom out here so that you can see what I'm doing. Sorry, that was a bit quick. And cool thing is that with the Hues of Happiness, we have dies that match this flower. So that's very exciting. So I like to choose a flatter plate for cutting out this sort of flowers, just because it sits nicer when you're lining it up. I don't know how I fluked getting the right. Normally I have to spin it like 10 times before I find the right. So just keep spinning if you can't find the right direction. Is that lined up okay still? Yes. We'll soon find out. If not, I have a backup piece here. You just never know what can happen in videos. I feel like it's crooked. But use tape if you want it to really be perfect. Oh yeah, it's a little bit crooked, but it's not bad. But I've got another one here that's absolutely perfect. Because I took the time to straighten it up properly. So, aren't they gorgeous? It just looks so good. And you could even put Wink of Stella if you have Wink of Stella on top. It's just so, so gorgeous. And then the sentiment I'm going to use, I'm actually going to emboss, and I'm going to use Happiness Abounds. I'll use this one here. You are wonderful in every way. So we'll come in with our embossing gear. Really, really put lots of embossing powder on here. If you don't have your embossing buddy, you need one stacked, because they just take off all of the static and just make sure that you have a really crisp, beautiful image. So we're just putting that in the Versamark, stamping, and then tipping the white embossing powder on top. And then all we're going to do is snip that out. Now, if you don't like snipping, that's okay. You could use a sentiment or use something to cut it out. Isn't that amazing? Looks so good. And we'll get our snippy snips and cut that out. And then once we've done that, we are cooking with gas. Look at me, I'm like, where are my snips? Where have you gone, snippy snips? You can run, but you can't hide from me. I've got like 4 over that side. Here it is on my trimmer. This is what happens when you make videos. You have no idea how many things are behind the scenes here. Just shove everything to each side. I should really have a system, shouldn't I? That would be a smart way of doing it. So we'll put that on. So I like it to be straight where the sentiment's straight, and then where I've got the curves, I just follow the curves. Not really close, you want to leave a little bit of a gap. And by leaving a gap, it just means, you, like, even though it's like all cut weird and crooked and manky, I don't know, you just don't see it when you have a little bit of a space around the edge. So probably all I would add is just a little bit closer in here. There we go. Ah, love it. And I'll do the top too. Yeah, that's as simple as it gets. So we'll just compile this together. We'll pick our perfect flower. And all we're going to do, firstly, I'll stick down this outside piece. Then we'll raise it on dimensionals. And then we are looking fantastic. Now, like I said, if you really wanted that to be raised up higher, that middle bit, you can put double dimensionals on this piece, or you may even choose to put dimensionals on that piece. Totally up to you what you decide, but I'm just going to do the one layer here. I haven't got as many as Bruno, but he would have another 10 more. There we go. Make sure it's the right way round. Ask me how I know. It's easy to get it the wrong way, which, you know, it still would look good, but there we go. And I'm going to put some dimensionals on this baby, because why not? Because we can. And then add our little sentiment. Ah, perfect. And I'm just going to add a dimensional on the side where it overhangs, and then put some glue there. And we can just pop it around there somewhere. Oh, wonderful. So there you go, people. That is our beautiful card today. Scrappy strips using the Hues of Happiness. Isn't it just so much fun? So I think you're going to have a really great time with this technique, and I think you can just play with this and really make it your own. But thank you so much for being here for our tutorial bundle this month, and I really hope you use this technique. I'd love to see it. Please message us. And thank you for watching. Thank you for purchasing too. Thank you so much. Bye.